Morning, everybody. 4 or 5 days left, depending on when you considered the signing ceremony happening. It's scheduled for the 10th in Marrakesh, but I believe the 10th in Marrakesh is actually the 11th in Canada. So just due to time zones and stuff. So 4 or 5 days left. I'm going to change my countdown to 4. So we're going to skip 5. Sorry. Here's the petition. You can sign it. You can click the link in the description, or you can click the link from my website. Come join the conversation. There's the link from my website, and it's a whole forum. You can join in and talk with us. You can sign the petition once you've gotten to the petition page, or you can scroll down and note that Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party, was the sponsor of this petition, and you can see who's winning in signatures. Currently, Ontario is way ahead with 12,000 signatures, and second is Quebec. So we are not liking the Global Compact on Migration, but are you going to let those Eastern provinces beat you, Westerners? Come on, get some signatures. Make sure you click the link in the email when they send the email, because they'll send an email to you and then you have to click the link in order for your signature to count. Justin Trudeau says that you should be proud to sign this, and I'm going to absolutely decimate his ridiculous argument.
Things that Canadians can be proud of is that we are showing leadership on one of the important issues around the world, which is migrations and immigration. We are demonstrating that rigorous systems and an open policy actually leads to economic growth and economic advantages and stronger communities, and being able to do this in a way that shows global leadership and of course does not impinge upon our own sovereignty is something I think Canadians can be proud of.
And that's the clip ends there. He doesn't answer any questions. There's nothing after this. It's just 29 seconds, sorry. And you can click the link in the description. However, so did you catch that? Did you hear what he said? Okay, he said, we can demonstrate rigorous systems and an open policy lead to economic growth and economic advantages. Really? Really? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're showing? Okay, first I want to show you this. This is the Global Compact on Refugees. This is not the Global Compact on Migration, but the Global Compact on Migration is complementary legislation. This is from the United Nations, okay? And it says the report of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the Global Compact on Refugees. Okay, so this is complementary legislation. This is meant to go along with the Global Compact for regular and safe migration, right? This is the Compact on Migration legalizes migration movement from wherever you are to countries that have signed on, and they'll give you lots and lots of stuff, like thousands of dollars, really. And I'm going to show you. So I'm not entirely sure if Justin Trudeau's just bold-faced lying, but it sounds like it. So here's from the UN. The most important thing you need to know, the background A1 paragraph says this. The predicament of refugees is a common concern of humankind. Refugee situations have increased in scope, scale, and complexity, and refugees require protection, assistance, and solutions. Millions of refugees live in protracted situations, often in low and middle-income countries, facing their own economic and development challenges. The average length of stay has continued to grow, this is the important part, despite the tremendous generosity of host countries and donors, including unprecedented levels of humanitarian funding. The gap between needs and humanitarian funding has also widened. There's an urgent need for more equitable sharing of the burden and responsibility for hosting and supporting the world's refugees, while taking account of existing contributions and the differing capacities and resources among states. Refugees and host communities should not be left behind. Okay, so they're saying this is really, really expensive. And I've done a video going through this entire document, actually just the first 17 pages, because that's really all the important parts. Well, not the important parts only, but what I could get through at that time. And I haven't got back to it, so I apologize. But first 17 pages. And so I go really in depth to look at what they're actually saying in this Global Compact. And basically what they're saying is it's really, really expensive to do this. Also, they're saying that it leads to economic growth and economic advantages. And we've had this conversation before, but there's more and more people watching my show, and I don't want them to have to dig through all other videos. So this is President Trump claims that 10 refugees overseas cost as much as 1 in the US. And basically, this is arguing that the refugees over time inject about $63 billion into the United States economy. So by the HS took it one step further and estimated that taxes paid by refugees, including payroll taxes, income taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, and the like. The net fiscal impact of $63 billion over 10 years, the agency said. In other words, over time, the taxes paid by refugees easily exceed those the cost of taxpayers, right? Okay, so one side, the UN is saying it's really expensive, despite the tremendous generosity of host countries and donors, including unprecedented levels of humanitarian funding. The gap between needs and humanitarian funding has widened. It's really expensive. Or Trump's crazy and it's $63 billion over 10 years. That's nothing. It's a pittance. In 10 years, you're going to be making so much money on these refugees, you're not going to know what to do with it. $63 billion, you could pay off your debt with that, Mr. Trump, right? No. Here is Mr. Hassan talking about, sorry, not Mr. Hassan. We'll get to that in just a minute. Here's the cost. Asylum seekers cost Ottawa $340 million last year. PBO, Parliamentary Budgeting Office. And based on this analysis, the PBO pegged the average cost of managing an individual asylum seeker at $14,321 in 2017-18, with most of that attributed to the Immigration and Refugee Board, IRB, with adjudicants on the merit of refugee claims. Which adjudicates on the merit of refugee claims. However, it estimates the cost will grow to $16,666 in 2019-20, thanks largely to growing medical costs under the Interim Federal Health Program. The IFHP provides temporary health insurance for refugee claimants who have either been rejected and deemed ineligible or are waiting trial or waiting ruling. So that's what's happening with all the people sitting in the hotels. And funny, so $340 million for this year alone, up to November, that's not even all of 2018, that's up to November, $340 million is not the cost to house them, not the cost to educate their children, not the cost to feed and clothe them. All of that is not taken into account. And I've done a video on this specific issue as well, and I'm not going to go back into that video. But my point here is either it's really expensive or they're a huge boon to our economy. And what it's looking like, and Mr. Ahmed Hassan is saying we can't sustain this. What it looks like is it's a huge drain on our economy, Mr. Trudeau. So your statement of we can demonstrate a rigorous system and an open policy that leads to economic growth and economic advantages is a bold-faced lie. You are lying and you know it. And everybody else knows it too. Are you ready for some yellow vests, sir? You look a little pallid. Are you sleeping well? No? Maybe you should back off this idiotic idea, sir. So, I wanted to show you unequivocally, and here's Mr. Ahmed Hassan talking about how our asylum system is broken. Quote, the number of people, and this is a National Post article, published on August 24th. We've known for a long time that our system is broken. The number of people seeking asylum in Canada is rising, quote, far beyond what the existing system can handle, according to a recent letter from Immigration Minister Ahmed Hassan, obtained by the National Post. Quote, without changes to improve efficiency and productivity of the asylum process, wait times and backlogs will only continue to grow, Hassan writes, in the August 14th letter addressed to the Canadian Bar Association. This situation is not sustainable, nor is it fair to the people who need Canada's protection. Okay, he's saying that our system is not good enough to bring in the amount of people we're bringing in. We need to overhaul it to bring in more because, quote, this situation is not sustainable or fair to the people who need Canada's protection. So, and my statement to you, Mr. Hassan, is Canadians born in Canada need Canada's protection, not prospective voters for the Liberal Party who you intend to bring in and flood ridings with. Okay? Nobody's on board for what's happening in Europe right now. And that is what this travesty of an agreement, the Global Compact, is going to allow. It is going to allow unchecked mass migration into Canada. And Justin Trudeau knows how expensive this is, how disastrous this is, how it hands our sovereignty over to the United Nations, despite the window dressing. The treaties state we respect state sovereignty, but human rights supersede state sovereignty, right? If you have a human who is on Canadian soil saying, I need asylum or whatever, and you can't prove where they come from, according to this government, they require a trial and money and to be put up in a hotel and to have their human rights respected. That is what this does. Okay, so the rest of this is going to tightly continue to talk about this. The other day, I said somebody made the comparison that the Paris Climate Agreement is non-binding. And that person was Lorrie Goldstein, son Lorrie Stein. Sorry, Lorrie, if I got your name wrong. The United Nations, he says, quote, the United Nations Paris Climate Accord is non-binding. Its only binding section is on reporting emissions, but there's no penalty if they're not reported. The only influence the Paris Accord has is moral suasion. Yet, it certainly influences public policy in Canada and globally. And does it? Does it? Yes, it does. Oh, Here's subscribe now. Trudeau is planning on intervention in Ontario after Doug Ford abandoned Canada's national climate plan. You bet. The Paris Climate Accord is a non-binding policy that Canada signed onto, and Canada has a national carbon tax that Justin Trudeau is going to shove down our throats, and he knows, yet again, that this is going to cost Canadians a lot of money, a lot of Canadian families and businesses. This is a policy that will kill businesses. This is a policy that will make your food more expensive. This is a policy that will make everything more expensive because everything is trucked, is shipped. We don't have an option. We can't say, oh, I'll use the solar-powered car today. Thank goodness we've got this carbon tax to get this car off the road. So, and also, we're 3.4% of the global emissions. So even if we zeroed out our carbon emissions, do you think that's going to make a difference? Anybody? Hands up if you think it's going to make a difference. I realize we're on the internet, so put your hand down. It's cool. But this non-binding policy that we signed in Paris that wasn't even that China and other major polluters didn't have any kind of, there was no emission curbing. It was a money transfer. It was a money transfer. And it is bringing Canada to its knees. So are we willing to sign on to another disastrous UN plan that costs us $340 billion unbudgeted dollars? The budget for asylum seekers and illegal border crossers was $172 million in 2018 over 2 years. Yeah, go look it up. I usually have a link, but I'm just working here. But my point is, they know this is expensive. They know our system is stretched well beyond the limit to handle the influx that we're welcoming, and yet they still say that this leads to economic growth and economic advantages and doesn't impinge our sovereignty. Liar. You are lying and you know it. Finally today, the Yellow Jacket protests are spreading. 1,000 Swedes protest against mass refugees influx and the infamous UN Global Migration Pact in front of the Swedish parliament. Quote, "It's time to bring out our inner Vikings as we continue to fight for Sweden." And there's a lot of people there. And rebellion spreads, according to Breitbart. Yellow Jackets plan action across the Netherlands. So, the Global Compact on Migration is a disaster. It's a disaster for Canada. It's a disaster for the migrants who will believe that it's a human right for them to show up in Canada and have all the rights as tax-paying citizens, because they'll chance a dangerous trip if they think that it's worth it. It's called a pull, right? And if you're pulling people to Canada saying, yeah, we'll give you $14,000, we'll give you all the money in the world. Come here and we'll put you up in a hotel and we'll give you lots of clothes and water. Oh, you don't like this food? We'll get you a different meal plan. It is insane. They know it's expensive. They know it's crippling. They understand it's not legally binding, and they don't care. France, Belgium, Sweden, Amsterdam, they're standing up. Are we going to be able to stand up? Saturday at 11 a.m., there's a protest against signing the Global Compact on Migration. I want to ask you, dear viewer, I don't know how to protest this properly. I'm not sure. Our geography is so spread out. If we had all 35 million people in an area the size of the Netherlands, I think we'd all make the drive to Ottawa if it's an hour away or two. But there are people who are a flight away or a 10-hour drive away. And it's not possible to effectively send that message to Justin Trudeau unless all of us do it. And we're not there yet. We're not there yet. People are still sleeping. I'm open to ideas. Share them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday.